नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुम् मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधोऽभिधीयते वासुदेवेन्द्रयोगीन्द्रम् नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुम् मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधोऽभिधीयते वासुदेवेन्द्रयोगी नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुम् मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधोऽभिधीयते नित्यं शुद्धं निराभासं निराकारं निरञ्जनम् नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दम् गुरुं ब्रह्म नमाम्यहम् नित्यं शुद्धं निराभासं निराकारं निरञ्जनम् नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दं गुरुं ब्रह्म नमाम्यहम् साधनचतुष्टय सम्पन्ना अधिकारिणां मोक्षसाधनभूतं तत्त्वविवेकप्रकारं वक्ष्यामः साधनचतुष्टयं किम् नित्यानित्यवस्तुविवेकः इहामुत्रार्थफलभोगविरागः समाधिषट्कसम्पत्तिः मुमुक्षुत्वं चेति we'll do this once more नित्यानित्यवस्तुविवेकः
नित्य वस्तु विवेकः
इहामुत्रार्थफलभोगविरागः
इहमुत्रार्थफलभोगविरागः
क्षमादिषट्कसम्पत्तिः
समाधिषट्कसम्पत्तिः
मुमुक्षुत्वं चेति
मुमुक्षुत्वं चेति
परस्त्वेकं ब्रह्म
नित्यवस्त्वेकं ब्रह्म
तद्व्यतिरिक्तं सर्वमनित्यम्
तद्व तद् Ma'am, can you repeat it once again?
तद्व्यतिरिक्तं
तद्व्यतिरिक्तं सर्वमनित्यम्
सर्वम् अनित्यम्
सर्वम् अनित्यम्
तद्व्यतिरिक्तं सर्वमनित्यम्
तद्व्यतिरिक्तं सर्व अनित्यम्
तद्व्यतिरिक्तं
तद्व्यतिरिक्तं सर्व अनित्यम्
सर्वम् अनित्यम्
सर्वम् अनित्यम्
नित्यवस्त्वेकं ब्रह्म
नित्यवस्त्वेकं ब्रह्म
तद्व्यतिरिक्तं सर्वमनित्यम्
तद्व्यतिरिक्तं सर्वमनित्यम्
अयमेव नित्यानित्यवस्तुविवेकः
नित्यवस्तुविवेकः
And before that, this verse is an answer to this text, which also we will do. Let me go back once more. When we saw the fourfold qualifications, the four mental disciplines, the four eligibility criteria for moksha, or in other words, for your, let them be called as indicators which are defining your inner growth, your mental growth. These are what are defined as mental growth, help in mental growth, and that mental growth is finally going to help in towards moksha. So what are those four we said? Viveka, Vairagya, here Viragaha, Vairagya, Shatka Sampattihi, Mumukshutva. Now how the text goes is, each of them, these are going to be now elaborated. And to elaborate them, the next topic starts as putting a question to the very definition. So what are the four qualifications? Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekaha 1, Ihamutrartha Phalabhoga Viragaha 2, Shamadhi Shatka Sampattihi 3, Mumukshutvam Cha Iti. Cha Iti means now that is enumerating. So Mumukshutvam is the fourth. Now each of them is going to be elaborated. So to elaborate them, they will put a question to each one of them. That means supposing you are listening it for the first time, you will obviously ask, but what is Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka? What is it called? So that before they define what we've been studying for 2 days now, is this text over here in the blue that you see, turquoise blue, Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekaha Kaha. Rimjim? Rimjim, can you chant?
Yes. Nitya Vastu Vivekaha.
Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekaha Kaha.
Nitya Vastu Vivekaha Kaha.
Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekaha Kaha.
You're repeating Nitya twice, ma'am, yeah?
No. This is Nitya and anitya, when they are combined together, they become nitya, nitya.
अच्छा
There's a sandhi there.
अच्छा नित्य नित्य वस्तु विवेकः कः
So this kaha here is a question. What? I'll go back again since there seems to be a confusion. See this nitya, nitya vastu vivekaha.
हाँ
This
हाँ
nitya, nitya vastu is nitya, anitya vastu. This, when it has taken a sandhi, it has become nitya, nitya vastu.
जी जी जी
So the same question, now the same statement has been put as a question. That is the beauty of this text. So the next question, once we finish this, will be Iya mutrartha phalabhoga viragaha, means what is vairagyam? Kaha. You know that kaha there, not this kaha, but as a question that you see here. Kaha. So what is that? What is called discerning, permanent and impermanent? What do you call as discerning? What is nitya and anitya vastu? That is the topic that we are talking about. And this is the definition that is given as an answer to it. I'm calling it as a definition, but this is the answer to this question. Nitya Nitya Vastu kisko kehte hain? What is called Nitya Nitya Vastu? Answer is Nitya Vastu Ekam Brahma Tat Vyatiriktam Sarvam Anityam Ayameva Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekaha. Ayameva means this alone is. So what is Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekaha? Or if you sandhi it, what is Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekaha? It is Nitya Vastu Ekam Brahma. Only one Brahman is Nitya. Tat Vyatiriktam. Other than it, other than that one Brahman, Sarvam, everything. Other than that one Brahman, everything is Anityam. This is the unfoldment, the profound unfoldment, the crux of entire Vedanta. उसी को विवेक कहते हैं. What we have been doing since last two classes, we have been seeing vivekaha, capacity to discern. Buddhi is the faculty with which one begins the discerning capacity, discernment, with which one does discernment. This discernment is on separating out things that have been mixed up. That mix-up we saw from relative standpoints. In the world, you always keep using this. In a gross way, we say, in an evident way, physically, sensorially evident way, figuring out. When you say, okay, I want to do this, how should I go about? So you're employing a process of analysis. That processing of data intellectually is one vivek, but that is not the vivek that is going to be helpful for inner maturity. The kind of vivek we use in life means हम सिर्फ सोच को, discernment को कुछ भी थोड़ा सा अलग अलग कर लेते हैं. अच्छा यहाँ से नहीं यहाँ से जाते हैं. अच्छा साइन बोर्ड है, so it means let's go this way. Not these are all thinking. Of course, this is all also discernment. But this kind of a discernment is not a eligibility for mental maturity. That you can figure out how do I want money, how do I earn money, how do I go from one place to another place, how do I multiply my property. All this involves a lot of analysis. All that analysis is not what is going to qualify you. Any thinking, as I've said before, is not called vivekaha. So what is that special thing that is called Vivek here? He says, learn 2 words today. One is Brahman. Brahman is different from Brahma. Brahma is Lord of Creator. Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. Brahmaji is not the topic of discussion here. Topic of unfoldment here. What is that one vastu? Nitya किसे कहते हैं? What is that which is going to be permanent? If you have to translate the word Nityam, I'm glad we are beginning to get used to the word Nityam. I can see that the relatability is beginning to happen by the word Nitya and Anitya, which is very good because these are direct indicators. If you replace their translations as permanent and impermanent, the clarity will not be to that an extent. What is Nitya? Translation is permanent. Translation is changeless. Translation is ever there. जो चीज हमेशा है, ever existent. What is ever there alone can be Nityam. What can be permanent? By word permanent, what do we mean? It is always there. So you see, the word permanent is closely associated to our idea of existence. किसी चीज का होना और उसका हमेशा रहना, उसको हम परमानेंट कहते हैं. वो परमानेंट अगर हमेशा रहेगा, it must have a very unique characteristic, and that should be that it should be changeless. वो परमानेंट तभी हो सकता है, वैसा का वैसा तभी हो सकता है when it remains changeless. So नित्य वस्तु in a like Hindi you would translate it as an object. Vastu here is associated with Nityam. Nitya Vastu kya hai? What is that which is always permanently existent? Get the question first. What is called Vivekaha? He gave the answer, Nitya Anitya Vastu ko Vivek kehte hain. Your capacity to discern between what is permanent, what is impermanent. You can sift them out. हर situation में, हर life में, your own desires, what you want in life will always come with certain integral ingredients which you have to sort which of them is permanent, which of them is impermanent. For example, you say, I want a budding career. I want a budding career. Who doesn't want? Everyone wants. I want a budding career. What field will I get it in? In which field of activity, what should I choose that my career can become successful? I can have a successful career. What is that field that I should choose? Now, very interesting is the application over here. What is mixed up inside you? I want successful career. I want successful career. Why do I want success? For certain other additions to it, which is what? It gives me money, it gives me status, it gives me comfort, it will give me, how we say, respect in the society. It will give me everything that I want. Means I feel that if I work hard now, I will get a successful career, and that successful career will give me everything along with it. All that along with it seems to be in the background because my attention is only on that successful career at that moment. Once I get the successful career, I am appending to it that I want a successful career for all that, but my attention is not on that, what I have appended. My attention is, let me now first get successful career, because I think it's kind of a causation. If I get successful career, I get money. If I get money, I get status, I get people, I get, ये सारा ball rolling अपने आप हो जाता है if I have a successful career. I want all that. this that I want everything within me, sifting it out, what field is it in which I will become successful? If you start applying just this much, first relative level, what is it that I can sustain for a long period of time? Which interest of mine will hold me a lifelong activity? I want to do 5 things. I have capability of 5 things. But I have to choose a career in which I will become successful. Out of those 5 interests, which is that interest that will last me for a life? Not only will it last me for a life, I will have to be engaged in it. That means my mental preoccupation will sustain that field of activity. I'll be mentally engaged in that field of activity. Now which of these 5 interests is more deeper, is more interesting to me, that alone will probably sustain over all others. Right? So far? Right? So whatever I am seeing as my 5 interests, first level of discernment is, what is it that is sustaining lifelong for me? That means relatively कौन सा permanent होगा? Nityam means what? That will last. Means I shouldn't get fed up of it. I shouldn't get tired of it. I shouldn't get exhausted with it. I do not know that the further confusion many people get into is, yes, I have an interest in this field, but I know this field cannot give me success. Now, what will I choose? A field I am inclined for, but it doesn't seem to be a popular field in the world, which will give me as much as I think, that much success that I think I want. There is another interest in me which can give me some success, but that interest is less than this interest. You see the 2 things? How will you choose? The first criteria, as I said, this one relative factor of this is where you can apply it. So today I'm taking an example before moving on. What will you apply? A superficial interest, but capacity to give deeper. Capacity to give success because it's a common value in society, people will appreciate. Versus a real deep interest, but it's not so popular in society, so I will not get so much success. I will not get as much as I desire out of it. What will I choose? Between these 2, what will I choose? Can anybody?
First one.
If you don't want to, it's okay. But
The first one, I think.
which is the first one?
Which is very popular among people and will give me all the success I'm looking for.
So you will choose that?
I'll choose the latter one, ma'am.
Yeah.
जिसमें जो popular नहीं हो, but which has a lot of interest, which I have a lot of interest.
Okay. Now
I'll choose the first one.
you will choose the first one? Why will you, those who are choosing the first one, why do you think you will choose the first one? What makes you choose the first one?
Because the major purpose of choosing between 2 is the success. So if we want to become the success, if we want to get the success, so that's why in the first case we are getting the success now. So that's why.
Okay. Divya, you too? Same reason?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that eventually I'll have issues because obviously it's not my interest area, but I know that I'll encounter later. And maybe regret also.
See where the choice comes based on permanent and impermanent. You are already discerning. If I want this, then immediately I may get the success. But my interest is shallow. If my interest is shallow, my question next would be, Are you sure that you will be able to give your 100% in a field where your interest is less than your other interest where you can give, because your interest, you can give 100%? Is this clear?
You cannot, yeah.
You cannot, no? So do you really think you will get success just because the society gives it a yardstick? Are you qualified for that success by your interest? Maybe your interest will give you success in the field where you lasted longer. So, see, there are so many, this is just an example. Obviously, this is not a career counseling class, or this is not a choosing class. We are coming to Vedanta and the real topic now. Why I am bringing this down at this level is because you start to see that choosing is not easy. Discerning is not easy based on identifying what is more permanent and which is, compared to that, less permanent. Here the topic is going to be what is absolutely permanent. Whatever we choose in life is going to definitely be only relative to each other. So between the two interests that I have deep interest and less success in the world will not recognize it, but my interest is so much that I can persevere it for a longer period of time. The second is I have just a superficial interest. Okay, it's not totally so, but it is less than the criteria A. Over here, the world will recognize it. Now if you're choosing in this order that I said just now, if you're choosing the second one, which is less interest, more success, immediate success, you already know that immediate success will come with a particular exhaustion. Remember, we did this rules of anityatvam, and one of them was whatever is generated will get exhausted. It will not last. Anybody remembers? I hope you've been visiting the classes in the back, previous classes. Whatever has been generated is not going to remain generated. It is going to get exhausted. So whatever I am in the process of generating success, instantly, yes, I will get it, but it will also come at a point where it will exhaust itself, means I'll have to go on putting effort. If my interest is low, do I see myself that success giving me the same happiness? Because why did I want success for? All of those. And why did I want all of them? I'm presuming that I'm going to be happy. But will that happiness last? The minute this exhaustion sets in of the fruit bearing process, पेड़ भी सीजन में फ्रूट देता है, फिर उसको अगले सीजन देता है. Even a tree gives season, it cannot keep on bearing fruits. So whatever bears fruits, your karma bears fruits. Whatever fruits they bear, they are bound to get exhausted at some point of time. So what is I'll call it the art of choosing. यहाँ पे सब अलग अलग हो जाता है. Why are we all different people? Because we choose differently. And what are we choosing on? We are choosing on whatever our priorities are, whatever is our understanding at that stage. Sometimes it is a priority that yes, I need to get immediate success, and I understand tomorrow it will not last me, and I understand like Divya just said, I am prepared for regret later on. But I better be prepared for anything that can happen because it is going to be changing. Question here is, what is that? Before that, first question is there something that is changelessly there? It should not only be changelessly there, it should be also something which gives me happiness. Because changelessly there, and if it is not a source of joy, how will I want it? I don't even want it kshanbhar. I don't even want it for a millisecond. I don't want anything which doesn't give me joy, happiness. I am asking for permanent only because it's permanent happiness that I'm asking for. I want. So that permanent happiness means there should be something that is there which is permanent, and it should also be a source of my happiness. The viveka, discernment, begins of that. What is that one thing? Here the answer is, it is ekam. Student will ask, is there even a ekam? Kuch hai bhi kya? Because what are we seeing in the world? Changelessness is the law, changing law. Change is the changeless law. Changing is the changeless law. हम तो यही देखते हैं. Everything changes here. When we see that everything changes here, are we to do viveka between changing and changing? Like I just gave the example. What is the example I gave? I said relatively permanent. But you put the words the other way, then that relatively permanent becomes between two changing things, which is less changing. But it is bound to change. Is this clear? Because it's layered. It's got a few peels to it. My choice is going to be between what is more changing and what is less changing. Because are they in the category of changeless? No. They are going to change. Whatever I will acquire is bound to be lost at some point of time. It will decline if it's not lost. It is bound to decline at some point of time. And that decline, I am associating it with not a decline of happiness. I have worked hard for what? Success. I got it. Having got success, I enjoyed my... What is viveka here? Everybody who has success in life, are they happy people? Answer is clear to us. They are not. Not as happy as they thought they will be when they reach that position. When they get all that. Which means what? This is thinking. This is called vichar, which will free you from that false dependency on it. It's not that you need not do those things. Of course, you'll still have to earn your bread and butter. Of course, you'll still have to struggle it out. Of course, you'll still have to find your feet in the world. Of course, you will have to go about doing everything as is to be done. But what is the difference? When I have accounted for all this in my thinking beforehand as one of the essential criteria in my decision making, what is that criteria? Which is lasting longer than the other? And based on that, what am I choosing? Which will give me, agar dono hi badal raha hai, a successful person hasn't found that kind of happiness that he thought he will get before he started on that journey, which means there is some mix-up in our thinking. What gives us happiness? What is the source of happiness? And this is where this definition helps. Shastra says, Vedanta says, there is only one source of happiness. That one, fortunately for us, is Nityam. That means it's ever a source of happiness. It is a changeless source of happiness. That changeless source of happiness cannot be two. Because if it is two, there will be relativity. It is one. That one changeless source of happiness, here in this, it's too preliminary yet. Here it says is Brahman. Brahman by word means that which is expansive.
मैंने ना वो वीडियो ऑन करते हैं अभी तक, अपना बंद कर दो।
I can't see. Someone is R.K. Arora ji, आपका mic on है. जी, thank you. That Brahman means what? By word it means expansive. Expansive means limitlessly expansive. Limitlessly expansive means infinite. Infinite means ever there. Always there. Always means time. Something which is always there, we have already discussed it before, means it is actually not in time, it is free of time. It is always word. हमेशा रहता है. जो हमेशा रहता है और अगर वो टाइम के अंदर है तो क्या वो हमेशा हो सकता है? क्योंकि टाइम बदलता है. तो जो चीज बदलती है उसमें फिर वो हमेशा नहीं रह सकती ना. टाइम के साथ बदल जाएगी. So that means what is Vedanta bringing in as a permanent thing? That permanent vastu. It's not an inert thing. It's not a thing. Vastu here doesn't mean thing. Vastu here means essence. Truth. That truth is free of time. I know each word is linking to the other. If you're not concentrating, you may miss, oh, आज सूरज कहाँ से निकला था? इतना confusion हो रहा है. Because if you miss one sentence, you will miss the whole link of thought. Brahman is all expansive. All expansive means it is limitless. कोई boundary नहीं है उसकी. Limitless boundary nahi hai means what? It is expansive. It is everywhere. It is everything. And everywhere means it is free of space, because if it is here and not there, then it is again not expansive enough. That means in it is space. Pause here and think. Take an imagination as I say the words. If you have a window in front of you, or imagine the sky that you're seeing. Just look at the sky outside. What do you think is the nature of sky? What do you see over there? It's expansive. What you see as sky, you can't see the end of it, you can't see the beginning of it. This sky that we are calling is actually space. We have understood that by science, thank God. We know this is space actually. What we are calling sky is actually space. That space Earth is a planet. Look at this beautiful thing. Space I can not see. Sky limit I cannot see. I can see sky, but I cannot see the limit. I know this is space, but I can't see it in its entirety. Earth is just a planet here. Where? In space. That means space is accommodating. Space is more expansive than Earth. Space is expansive than Earth. Clear so far? I have only few of you whose videos are. If few of you also not this way or this way, then I will get some indicator. Should I go ahead or should I repeat? Space is expansive enough to accommodate. Use the words. Space is expansive to accommodate Earth and galaxies. We are still discovering. And each one is huge in itself. One solar system is nothing in the whole creation. And we are just a small part of it. This space which is expansive. When you look at the sky there, and you know it is space. Space is the accommodator, accommodating all galaxies. All the galaxies are accommodated in space. So space becomes, the technical term for it is adhishthan. Adhishthan means substratum. Substratum means the very supporter. If there is no space, where is the galaxy? And forget that because it's too imperceptible for us. Let's stick to Earth because we can perceive it. Where is Earth abiding? Earth कहाँ पे है? अगर space नहीं है, so where is the existence of Earth? Is it clearer? If there is no space, imagine. There is no space. If there is no space, is there an Earth? Can't be. Earth's existence is proved. Means you know, अगर Earth है, तो उसका कुछ कोई accommodator है कहीं पे सब, because Earth is not all pervasive. Earth by nature is not something which is all existent. This will get more technical as we move onwards to Panchakosh and more. Earth is a huge mass, no doubt, housing all mad people, all of us. We are calling ourselves. We are congratulating ourselves. No, when you tell your friends, "Arey, pagal hai kya tu?" We don't really mean कि वो पागल है. We just mean you're crazy. Crazy means it's an informal way of saying you're my friend. All of us as human beings are what here? We are a whole bunch of crazy people here. Who's accommodating us? If the earth is not there, we are not there. But for the earth to be there, what is there? There is a space there. For space to accommodate, what is there? Is space by itself an entity which empowers and enlivens every life form over here? The question is that which Vedanta brings a person to. How your mind expands to truths is when you see through verification. Is space so powerful in itself that space is giving life to us mad people? Who's the generator of life? Who's the one who has generated life? Who's given birth to life? Birth is just quote unquote, doesn't literally mean birth. Origin. हाँ, अर्थ को सस्टेन तो स्पेस कर रहा है, लेकिन स्पेस का क्या ये नेचर है कि इट कैन enliven matter? Earth is matter to us. If it could, then all the galaxies should be. What is the answer? Anyone?
Then all the galaxies should be like Earth, if it can give life.
It should have the capacity. There should be life everywhere.
Yes.
Because space is the enlivener. Space is giving life. But we don't find that. We find life is so far we have discovered this much. There could be more planets, of course, where life is there. But there are planets where life is not there. But space is common to all. That means space is not the criteria to define life. So what is it that is accommodating space? Space कहाँ है? उसका अधिष्ठान क्या है? उसका सबस्ट्रेटम क्या है? उसका सपोर्टर क्या है? स्पेस को कौन अकोमोडेट कर सकता है? जस्ट एज अर्थ को अकोमोडेट करने वाला अर्थ से बहुत बड़ा वास्ट है. दिस वास्ट स्पेस को अकोमोडेट करने वाला must be much more expansive than space.
Deepti ji, this is Aditi.
Yeah. Can I just complete this?
Yeah.
Then we'll take the question. Space को accommodate करने वाला has to be more expansive than space. That expansive than space must probably, here we are just saying probably, but Vedanta Shastra is clear about it. That must be also the enlivener, which seems to be also enlivening in conjunction with some, when we come to the Prakriya mode later. But that which accommodates all this and is also the enlivener. That enlivener, that which is what is ever there, based on which the flow of life is, based on which the changes are supported, the changeless substratum based on which the changes are seen in a flow, ceaseless. They don't end. It's a constant stream of flow of change. We don't know when it began, when it will end. No, the substratum must be changeless for it to support the change, and that changeless substratum externally you cannot visualize, but because it must have the distinct characteristic of enlivening, and enlivening is related to your becoming aware, conscious. Therefore, this expansive is as consciousness, as awareness. Where do you find it? Where do you find that consciousness and awareness? Can anybody answer this question, and then we'll for a moment. Where is that consciousness and awareness found?
Brahman?
Okay.
In a being.
In a being, absolutely. And who is that being?
You are.
You are. Where
I am.
Who's conscious? I am. Who's conscious? Who's aware? If you say Brahman is conscious and Brahman is aware, that's not you don't know about it today. You only know yourself. Yes, as the thought flow has gone, this Brahman expansive has to be that which is of the nature of consciousness, but has to be that, cannot be knowledge. Knowledge is a verified process. That has to be, how do I verify? Because that if it is, then it must be seen here also, because I am a part of creation. I am also one of the members of creation. If that Brahman can support space and galaxies and earth and support life form, it must be more than space. So we are saying it must be life and Nirvana. If that is so, then where am I going to see it? I don't have to break my skull. Break my skull. I hope it's understood. Breako is a English word. I don't breakify my skull. If a brain is expanded and then or something else happens and no. सब कुछ की जरूरत नहीं है. Are you not an aware person? Are you not a conscious person? That awareness and consciousness, that Ekam Brahma, one changeless substratum, finally Vedanta will conclude to say that you are. And that is a verifiable fact. It's not speculation. It is not superstition. I don't have to believe anybody. I am consciousness. All that is left for me then is to discover how is this consciousness actually limitless? How am I limitless? Not I as the one which is in conjunction with the body, the mind and the buddhi. Not I the form. Not I the limited sense of an individual with characteristics. Not I the one, like yesterday we said, with name and form and gender and religion and not qualities, not likes, not dislikes, not fears, nothing. Because consciousness is free of it. Awareness is free of it. I'm aware of all this. Am I not also aware of space? I am aware of space. So if Vedanta says that Brahman you are fits because I am the one who knows the world. I am the one who knows the space. Space doesn't know me. So space becomes Jada Vastu. And the Viveka becomes between Jada Chaitanya. I am Chaitanya. Tat Vyatirikta. Other than me, the conscious being, which is Brahman, Ekam Brahma. Other than me, the conscious being, everything else, Sarvam Anityam, everything else is Anitya, is changing. So the body changes, the mind changes, the thoughts change, my tastes change, my likes change, my dislikes change, my relations change, my age changes, everything changes, there's nothing to hold this conjunction in a state of permanence. This conjunction I mean as body, mind, thoughts, me, the individual that I call myself as individual. There is nothing that holds this impermanence. This individual cannot be permanent. The individual is changing all the time. When we see our children and we see how full of life and there's this joy that is exuberating from them, which is infectious to the core. Why are children loved by everybody? Mostly. It's a generalization. But averagely. Why? Because they manage to hit the chord of expressing that without the individual layers of conditioning that as we grow up, we keep acquiring in the name of me being separate from the other. अपने इंडिविजुअलिटी बनाने में हम अपने को सबसे अलग कर लेते हैं और मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट सबसे अलग करना इतना वो नहीं है, वो तो दैट इज ओके. हम अपने स्वरूप से अपने को अलग कर लेते हैं. I am that conscious being. A child cannot recognize. that he is consciousness, because you need the development of your faculty. Buddhi chahiye. But as adults, by the time we have the faculty, we are involved in the sustenance of this body, these relations, this life over here, and this is so short-termed. We don't even know about tomorrow. Which one of us is popping off? God forbid. But where is which association ending when we are not sure of this? Nobody knows. And yet, we are spending an entire life just with these acquisitions, preservations, possessions, and maintenance, and all. And what are we missing out in the process? We are developing, refining, maturing, changing as a person, constantly accommodating the situation, the circumstances. सब कुछ तो कर रहे हैं. But in that whole process, that ekam source of your joy, that ekam source of all happiness always, we tend to layer it. We tend to blanket it. With what? With our thoughts and ideas and desires and individuality and hopes and wants and fear. Just one cycle as we started the class. That's why I started the class with that. Just choosing a career itself involves this life permanence or impermanence in a relative way. If I choose my interest, I'll have to sacrifice some amount of success. If I choose success, I will have to sacrifice my happiness. हो गया ना? Choice तो इन्हीं दो के बीच में आ गई. I have to leave one thing for the other. Whole life gets spent on this. And that faculty that a human being is uniquely endowed with is to discern, पहचान ले वो कि ये जो मेरे अंदर लाइफ पल्सेट कर रही है, ये जो मेरे अंदर एक्सप्रेस कर रही है, because of which I call myself an individual. Remember, just as because of space we exist, what is that because of which I call myself an individual? It can't be just me as an individual. Who's supporting the individual? Who's supporting my name and form and ideas and everything? This, if there is no consciousness behind it, I'm not conscious of my name, I'm not conscious of my form, I'm not conscious of anything, then what individuality am I so cherishing about myself? And I'm such a nice person, It's the world which victimizes. I too am. All this that you've recognized about yourself and called the other a criminal or a vicious person, all that you have done was supported by what? A conscious being. That conscious being, nature of it is Nityam. How do you know? I'll just conclude it here now. How do you know that? Because if whole of my individuality is supported by consciousness, where is it all supported? You will know it further only in the waking state. जब मैं जागी हूँ. One thing I have found an advantage to virtual classes is mostly people don't sleep in this. When you take a physical class, कभी-कभी बीच में थोड़ी नींद आ जाती. And this is a pet example then. I don't know, I don't think most of this goes in a virtual class. Our pet example then is, while you came to attend the class, you were engaged, your interest, you were listening, you understood also, you were nodding your head, you were understanding. बस एक पल में नींद आ गई. And then जब नींद आती है तो we have been smart enough to raise our voice at that time. Because we can't directly say na ki so gaye ho. So we raise our voice at that time so that it shakes you up and you come back to waking state. Now the question here is beautiful. Once you were awake of your individuality, you were listening. But the minute you fell off in the same place, the words are still going in your ears, supposedly, because your ears can't be blocked. But you fell off to deep sleep. And in those few moments of sleep before I registered and I raised my voice, you even dreamt. A dream came. You were dreaming yourself in the valley of flowers. That you were actually in the valley, you'd gone trekking in a valley of flowers. And there you are dreaming that you're in a valley of flowers, and then suddenly I raise the voice and pop karke you wake up. If you are the individual, if the entire consciousness is only supporting your individuality, then when you slept off, where was the individuality? Further, when you dreamt, the whole dream world, where was it when you woke up? Instantly. So this conscious being, consciousness, Ekam Brahma, the source of all happiness, ever, Nityam, because it's Nityam existence, it is Nityam Sukham, it is Nityam Anandam, changeless, but only in the source, as the source. If you say the source is, and you start saying, I am this, but I am not Nitya Sukham, of course you're not Nitya Sukham, because you are a name and form, and a name and form's nature is not Sukham. Conscious being's nature is Sukham. And when you slept and you dreamt and you woke up, in all the three, you were aware of all of them. Because you woke up and said, oh, I'm so sorry, I slept off and slept. Normally after class. Oh, I'm so sorry, I was very tired, so I slept off in the class. It's okay, you slept off. Because you are not the person anyway. Oh, I'd had a dream. What is the validity of the dream? In the light of consciousness, there is no validity to any dream. Who are you? That viveka, that is called viveka, is what Vedanta is saying. To be able to figure out, discern, is one thing. What is the Nitya Vastu and what is Anitya? Because when I know what is Anitya and I go on seeing the Anityatvam of it, means the temporariness of it, when I start recognizing the temporariness of it, this is where the word illusion comes from. And we will talk about it again in the next class. Remember, I'm concluding here only, it has come out to my mind in a very beautiful way. One hearing may not be sufficient for it. But what you may summarize it to say, one Brahman is of the nature of Nityam, changeless. It is the substratum of the entire creation. And that Brahman is this consciousness supporting the individuality. And recognizing that this consciousness is Brahman, one who recognizes it is liberated, is freed from this changing West. This has another whole prakriya some of the time. It has a whole logic behind it. It has a whole explanation behind it. Here the topic only is Nitya, Anitya, Vastu, Vivekaha. When you are able to arrive on your own, having heard Vedanta Shravanam, Mananam, in your Nididhyasanam, means if you have matured your mind enough with those qualifications, and this Viveka is a part of the qualification. It is still the qualifier. What is that qualifier? You must have this agility in your thinking. to arrive at by your observation of life, by observing things around you, questioning them, not getting overwhelmed by life or not getting overwhelmed by changes, not feeling caught up amongst them. No. Just observe them. And when you observe them, your mind begins to understand gradually. The changeless is there as a support always, Nityam, to all the change. And you should be arriving at this conclusion by your own thinking. The one who can have this thinking capacity, I am eva. This alone is called Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivek. And it is a qualifier. Your capacity to think in terms of what is permanent and what is not permanent from the absolute standpoint, starting from immediate small relative things and choosing the relatively permanent if you wish. If you don't know, that's your choice, it's your play. But you will know it's all temporary. And this I am concluding here. And yes, you wanted to ask something. Let's just take it up while the class is still on. Otherwise, those who are listening on Facebook may miss it out. Yes, Aditi?
Yes, Aditi ma'am. Actually, I wanted to understand. You connected saying that if life to matter, then wouldn't all planets have life, right? So then you concluded by saying that because all planets don't have life, for that simple reason, there is a higher power, or couldn't it's be different? Like,
your voice is breaking.
okay.
I could hear up to higher power.
Okay, so then basically, you are asking who is the Adhishtana of space on the basis of, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, on the basis of that, all planets don't have life. Firstly, I don't know if we reached that to like conclude that. And secondly, if all planets don't have life, couldn't they be like unique to each other, like how people are, we have all the qualities?
Yeah. Yes, you're right. To some extent, there is a jump in a presumption. There is definitely a jump I've taken, but it is not a jump in a wrong direction. It is just missing a step which is still not a part of the unfoldment in this context. But the question is the uniqueness. Your voice broke, so if I've understood it wrong, correct me. But the uniqueness of life that we're talking about, see, this whole context of knowledge is to the person, to the human being here. The context of knowledge is not answering creation, and it's not an objective knowledge. It is a subjective knowledge. It is talking to you, a person, and 99.99 people as human beings don't feel fulfilled with their life. And they're finding answers and measures approaching their own physical body and mind and approaching it externally in this world as an end in itself. So the context of Vedanta starts from the point of saying, what are you searching for? And answer to that is, what you're searching for is actually your own being. So the whole analysis is not to prove. The whole analysis is to point. And that pointing is, yes, can you deny? Of course, another thread you can take from the, if this is the presumption that all space cannot live in, otherwise there'd be life everywhere. Now, if you take it on the other extent, okay, if Brahman is everywhere, then also life should be everywhere.
Exactly.
Because Brahman is unending. Correct, absolutely. So there is a jump over there. You're absolutely on dot. You picked it up very well. Brilliant. But the point here is that we didn't stop at saying that we are answering the creation. That Brahman is the source only of creation. We are reducing this logic to you, to the person, to us as human beings, whose, I am using a particular statement, not in a negative sense, but I say we all have identity crisis. We just don't know who we are.
Yeah.
Therefore, there are all this, what Vedanta uses one word as samsara. In a very average, superficial hearing, people have understood samsara to mean this external world. But Vedanta clearly mentions samsara is only your shoka and moha and this, that kind of feeling lost in life, feeling no good for nothing, feeling all those kind of things. And when happiness is also found, that elation is not lasting enough, and you find yourself feeling caught in a cycle. The answer is to that problem, quote unquote, a human problem. A human problem that a human being is trying to find a solution for, and the direction of that solution is outside. So even if you find how did the creation start, let me ask another question now. Supposing science today finds, or we find, in our lifetime it is found how the creation started. Will that knowledge of how the creation started, how life started, reduce or eliminate any human being's capacity or any human being's liability to feel dukha? Will it give them freedom from dukha? Will it give them freedom from a feeling of struggle? Will it give them the freedom from feeling of limited, small, lost? And why are there human problems in the first place? We only see human problems. So most of the people, by now I'm really thankful to Bhagwan and to Ishvara. After so many years, I'm getting a chance to just talk on the subject. Otherwise, many years have just gone by because people think this knowledge is to remove their human problem. Yes, it is to remove your human problem, but not the problem in the sense of what should I do that, this relation problem or that money problem or this. No. It is to do with your fundamental human problem. And the fundamental human problem is avidya. Not knowing your own source, who you are. Does that now sense?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also had another question, actually. So I didn't understand how you linked the Brahman when you talked about that's the changeless substratum on which everything else changes to consciousness. I mean, I didn't understand how you took that leap there. How did you link it?
Yeah. There are only two things that are available to human beings in their experience now. The two things are
The thing is not understanding.
Madhuji,
Sorry.
mic.
Sorry.
It is still on. Yeah. What was I saying?
You actually didn't say anything.
You started by saying there are two things.
Two things in our perception. Absolutely. There are only two things that are actually in our purview, in our contact, in our experience, as you call it, from a relative level. One thing is what we call as objects. inertness. We just find matter. We have labeled it. We call certain things as matter because on the criteria that they show no life or less life, graded life compared to. So we are finding gradation of life, consciousness. And here life, I mean consciousness. We find gradation of awareness, self-awareness. In fact, we are addressing self-awareness. So a plant's self-awareness is compared to a stone's self-awareness, capacity to be self-aware, to a human being's capacity to be self-aware. The point is self-awareness. So we only have these two things. There is no third thing. Now, if space was to have another accommodating factor, which was of a similar nature of space, then we are going into a logical fallacy of regress infinitum. Then that space must have another space, or whatever the terms you may keep on multiplying. Where does it end? It ends at the one who would know it. There will be someone to know it, no? That someone to know is not outside. That someone to know is here. So we are reducing it to consciousness on that ground. That there can only be two things. I am not a Jada. I can't call myself an inert being. But I still know that body is inert. There are only two things, inert and consciousness. That, in other words, there's only one thing actually speaking from our standpoint. What is that one thing? There is this capacity to be self-aware. Does the body have the capacity to be self-aware?
No.
Who has the capacity to be aware then? Who is aware?
The mind. The mind.
The mind is also known. You know your mind. That means the capacity to be aware is not in the mind, because who is knowing the mind? Mind तो जाना गया है ना मुझसे. मेरा mind ऐसा है. आज मेरा mood नहीं है ना, मेरा mind ऐसा है. बस मेरे से बात मत करना, मुझे बहुत गुस्सा आ रहा है. आज मेरा mind बहुत changing है. मेरा mind बहुत fluctuating है. मेरा mind बहुत fickle है. मेरा mind बहुत kind है. I am kind. That means all this is known to you, no? हमारी तो सारी वेदांता एक ही क्लास में हो जाती है. Because that consciousness, no, you've come to the second point now very beautifully, because you cannot separate these three things: existence, consciousness, and knowledge. All three is what is called as Sat, Chit, and Anand. You cannot separate the three. So you will realize that who's aware of all this, yeah? Who's aware of me saying, who am I? And this person.
You mean the consciousness?
Sorry?
You mean the consciousness?
Yeah.
Now, like that's where the awareness is.
Yeah. They're actually just two terms of the same thing. It is just that I am limiting the consciousness and awareness to my form at the moment.
Right.
So by consciousness,
so what is
right?
So 1 minute, Divya. So what really is the introduction of Brahman is that this consciousness and awareness is not limited to this form. Yeah. I think we should end here. We'll continue later. Let the other people exit. And is that for now okay? Aditi first, because your question.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
And yeah, Divya, you were saying something. Okay, quickly.
Is consciousness Atma, right?
Yeah.
Then it's understood.
Yeah. Atma se zyada better would be Atman. Because Hindi ka Atma is another word, subtle body, which we will do later. Usko
Okay.
bhi log Atma keh dete hain. The one that travels from one body to another body.
That's what I meant. It's not that, right?
It's not that Atma. It's Atman. Atman is Brahman. Two terms.
Okay.
With reference to Brahman, when we are talking in this body, we call it Atman. It's a neuter
Okay.
word.
Can you explain that?
See, if you understood the Brahman so far, whatever has been covered, of course,
Yeah.
that Brahman, what we're talking is consciousness in this body. With
Yeah.
reference to only the person, individual, that is Atman. That Brahman is this Atman, but this Atman is not restricted. To say that Atman is Brahman is the direction, because it's not restricted to this body.
So is it something you carry, like you say, you carry
That
it
is that
into
is
another
that is
lifetime?
no, that Atman is always there. You don't carry it because it's Nityam. What you carry is your subtle body, which is called Atma in Hindi.
Soul, right? Soul is
So
not what
people
we are
call it soul.
talking.
There are a lot of terms. Therefore, in Vedanta, fortunately, we have very defined terms. But people call it soul. And soul is different from Atman.
So that consciousness, which you call Atman, what
What
happens
is it?
to it?
Yeah.
What happens to it when we are no more? Or like, how is it all pervading? What's the connection?
When we are no more, Atman is as is. You are only a reflector here. It's not residing here. So you see, when there is this form, as per the evolution of your form, the Atman, which is all pervasive, is reflecting life in this form. But it's not located in this form. The example, traditional example for it is sunlight, sun, and when you put a pot of water outside and you see a sun in the water, yeah,
Yeah.
that sun in the water cannot have its presence unless until there is a sun outside, larger sun. But the sun in the water that you are perceiving is only come about because of the boundary of the pot and the water combination. These portions will come when we come ahead to subtle body.
Yeah, I think there
It's
is a
huge.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why don't get overwhelmed. See, because these are questions that will, as I told you in the beginning, keep your questions by the side. And as the subject moves on, you will see you will be able to tick mark them. And whatever's left, we should take them at that time. Except for
Right.
clarification of what is said here. In the class, you may need to clarify what is said.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
under the impression that soul is what we are talking about as consciousness. That's the only reason why I asked you.
Good. That's a correct clarification. No, it is not what we are talking. You are absolutely correct. Because if you don't clarify this, then you will not get the clarity of the vision. So it is a correct clarification. Soul is different. Soul is the what we call, as yesterday I was talking of Antakarnam. One Buddhi Chit Ahankar. That combination is actually called soul. And in other religions, this other religions from where the word soul comes, they don't have these demarcations. So let's be very, very conscientious about usage of terms that are very specific to each concept of, their trilogy. Say soul is a very Christian term. They have a reference meaning to soul within their religion. But if soul, what is meant in Vedic culture, there is nothing called soul for us. it's just what is actually called as Atman is also called Jeev Atma. Yeah, so that's where the word gets confused in the beginning. Atma, Atman, ये सब क्या है?
Thank you, Deepti ji.
Thank you.
Manvi, are
Thank
you
you.
fine?
Not really. Could you talk about it in the next class?
Can we talk about it when the context arises? Because you'll definitely get
Sure.
more clarity in the context of
Sure.
what the topic is.
Okay.
Since this we are proceeding in this book has that in it, so we really have an advantage in this text because the text itself is a systematic text. A lot of texts like Bhagavad Gita, you will have many concepts together, so you have to bring them all together, and that can be a little more difficult to sift in the first stage of hearing. So we'll stick to the context, and when this context arises, I'm only giving that much information very deliberately that will help you to absorb at the point when the topic starts. By then the foundations would have been laid slowly in hearing. It's not expected that immediately you'll get clarity out of it, but having heard this much, when it will get repeated again, you will realize that now it started to plug in.
Okay, sounds perfect. Thank you so much. It was a beautiful class.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you for your participation. Let's just end the class. Let's chant. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag bhavet.